with at least 5 connected rows. That's worth 2 extra points. Whenever you put trains on the board, and then you can install the table. And however many trains you just put out, you're going to get some points.
Hi, my name is John Gallant. I'm the retail manager and a board game boss at the Boardroom Game Cafe in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So for a board game boss, what we do is we help people that come in pick out a game that's appropriate to their game group based on their previous experience with games. So I always ask, how much of this stuff looks familiar? And oftentimes it's like, well, not very much. And usually it's the shelf that has Monopoly and Sorry on it. And then I'll ask if they want a strategic game or if they want to work together, if they're super competitive. That really helps narrow down the choices. And then we'll grab maybe a couple of games, we'll go back to their table, and if they're not feeling adventurous on their own to go through the rule book, then we can sit down and we can actually teach the game to them. And then people find that really, really helpful, and they're really appreciative of that service that we provide to really help them get into the game sooner than they normally would if they were trying to learn it on their own.
So as a boardroom boss, what can people expect from you?
For me, they can expect that I'm pretty good at matching a game to a group. And I can get a sense for, if they come in, if they're looking for something more of a party nature, or if they're looking for something a little bit more competitive. I'm pretty good at matching that. And I'll be pretty assertive with the group, actually. It's just like, oh, you're going to play this game. And I'll just take that one game and sit down with them and start teaching. And I usually get them involved with the setup. Just like, oh, everybody's going to have a little bit of a job. So it gets them involved with the pieces and gets them playing around with the components right away. And then I try to be pretty efficient with the teaching, because people want to get in and play and have fun right away. And I'll often go through a practice round or go through one part of the game kind of together and then move on to the next bit, rather than just info dump them all at once. And that tends to work pretty well. And after my explanation, I'll typically watch a full round of their play, just to make sure any other questions don't come up. And I'll check back with them as the game progresses, just to see how things are going and comment on some cool moves that they might have done or things like that. And for the retail side of things, we have a relatively small retail section, but we stock it with the most popular stuff that we think are like the cream of the crop games that get published. And over 600 games actually get published every year. So it's a bit of a challenge to pick out what we think are going to be good sellers and meet the market that we cater to, the more casual game crowd. But we don't want to forget the hardcore gamers either. So we have a little bit of everything for anybody.
What are some of the games that a novice would first get into?
Usually, if people have very little experience with games, I'll usually start them off with what are called filler games, so games that take maybe 30 seconds to teach and maybe 15 minutes or so to play. So something like Spot It, which is a pattern recognition game, or Ghost Blitz, which is a speedy reaction type game. That gets them kind of into the mood of playing a game. And then if they're up for it, something like Settlers of Catan, or Ticket to Ride, or Carcassonne. Those are the big three that are kind of go-to staples to get people into these new kind of games. Carcassonne is a tile-laying game. So on your turn, you would draw a tile, and you would add it to the board. So the board changes every turn, and it's a new board every single time you play. And you're trying to extend roads for points, you're trying to build cities for points, and when those get completed, your little worker guys, your little pieces, they come off and you score your points. And depending on how many players you have, it can get pretty cutthroat at times too, with people trying to cut people off with what they're trying to build. But it's a very satisfying experience at the end of that game, because you see this big countryside that you've built full of cities and roads and monasteries. And Settlers of Catan is almost like a civilization building game, where you have these little settlements and you're generating resources every turn. There's a trading element too, so you can wheel and deal, and everybody's involved in the game on everybody's turn, which is nice. So there's not very little downtime. And something like Ticket to Ride is you are trying to build connections between cities over the course of the game. You get rewarded at the end for that, and you get points throughout the game. And that's one of our most popular games for sure. And we try and keep pretty good synergy between the retail shelves and what's available to play. So about 95% or so of what's available to buy, you can also try out as well. And a lot of people use the cafe kind of for that service. They've heard about a game, but they're not quite sure if they'll like it, so they'll come in and try it, and then they find it for sure, and then they can pick it up. And there was one game called Survive, Escape from Atlantis, where you're trying to escape from the sinking island. And I recommended that to a group. They played it twice, and it was a group of 4, and 2 of them actually ended up buying it on the way out because they liked it that much. And it's pretty great.
Have you ever had an epic loss? Has there been a game where you're like, why did I bother?
Well, actually, I played a new war game called Kemet. It takes place in like ancient Egypt, where you have monsters and things like that. And the goal is to get to 8 points. And if you have 8 points or more at the end of the game, you're going to win. I finished with 2 points, and everybody else had like 7, 9. So I felt pretty bad about Kemet.
And what about local games? Any locally created games?
We have one, it's called Gentlemen Thieves, published by a local company, and Sam Fraser is the designer. He's actually the head of our board game designer group here. And it's a storytelling game where people have different mansions that you are trying to break into and steal gold, but there's traps. And you have these cards in your hand, and you have to craft a story using the cards in your hand to bypass those traps. And the other players will vote on how good they think your story was. So they'll give a yay or a nay or abstain, and then you roll a die to has a little modifier there. And if you're successful, then you get the gold. If you're not, well, then tough luck. You have to try again next time. But it's pretty popular, and a lot of people really enjoy that one. We feel that when people are playing their games, they like to have snacks and have some drinks as well. So we've partnered with the local breweries here in Halifax, Garrison and Propeller. So we offer their beers in bottle form as well as draft. And we also have the Boxing Rock, a few of their selections. And going into making the cafe accessible and easy to eat your food while you play your games, that was kind of the driving force between our little candy bowls and our chocolate bowls and things that you don't really need utensils to eat. And we have pretzels and really good grilled panini sandwiches, and we have homemade dips and a little bit of everything for everybody. We do get a lot of students, and our age range is probably anywhere from 19 to, 50, 55. So it's a pretty wide demographic that we cater to. And despite that variety of people that come in, you still see the same games getting taken off the shelf. Settlers, Ticket to Ride, Cards Against Humanity. And again, it's just people that want a different kind of social experience in Halifax that they haven't had before, and it's cheaper than going to the movies.